Dr. Uche of Dr. Uche Books. How are you? Welcome again to my channel where I review tips and suggestions to help you write your biography. I also occasionally do book reviews here. Love works of fiction, and also do read alouds for your littles of children's book read alouds. But today I am going to be giving you yet another tip, yet another set of tips and suggestions to help you write your biography. And this is coming out of questions I get pretty often that I'm addressing in this series, now running 3 or 4 weeks. The one question I want to talk about today is, will anybody be interested? You know, I have this amazing story, or I have a story, but will anyone be interested? Before I go into that, I want to invite you to subscribe, like, share freely with your friends, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload new videos, and let's dig in. So, will anyone be interested? You know, in 2019, I believe, it was before the pandemic, I found my way in Denver. I live in Colorado. I live an hour south of Denver. And I made it to Denver because Michelle Obama was going on tour promoting her autobiography, Becoming. I'm sure most of you may have even read that book. It was brilliantly done. I loved it. So I got to Denver with a friend, and I sat as she was interviewed by Reese Witherspoon. And it was amazing how I thought everybody was carried away in this movement. Everyone was talking about becoming. And she and her writing team, her editors, obviously, you know, the power person she is, had a brilliant team to help her make this book as wonderful as it turned out to be. But they found a way to get us all caught up in it. So the most powerful thing about an autobiography is the degree to which other people can relate with what you're writing about. And I think that everybody has something relatable. And believe it or not, it's not usually the glamorous things that people can relate with. It's the struggle, it's the upheaval, it's the hurdle, something you overcame, something really difficult that you found a way to thrive despite, or something that was devastating, but you managed to pick up and keep going, right? And so this is what I wanted to talk about today. That yes, somebody will care about your story, but you have to bring out at least a few things that you thought were particularly challenging, okay? And you have to describe in some detail. Yes, writing an autobiography, it puts you in a place of vulnerability, but that is how people can relate with your story. Was it that you had a health issue, a health crisis? You know, these are the things you can write about, and it would help somebody be able to relate with what you're writing. They see themselves in your struggle. They actually feel inspired that you were able to get over this and keep moving. So think about that. The second thing is, remember that in future there will be family members who will maybe not have the privilege of having met you. And do you want to fade into oblivion? Do you want your history to be forgotten? Most people who write autobiographies are not comfortable with that, okay? So the second thing is, there are people in your family who may never get to meet you, and you want to save your story. And so it does actually matter to those people, and you want to save your story, is what I meant to say. Your story matters to those people, and you want to save your story, okay? That's the second thing. And the third thing is, even outside there in the world, you know, you'll be surprised at how there's certain parts of the world that where a certain period in time is not very well documented. I'll give you a random example. My family is Nigerian, and I would say that most of contemporary Nigerian literature started to emerge maybe in the 1950s. There's a gentleman, Chinua Achebe, who's late, who wrote Things Fall Apart. Before him, there wasn't really a lot written about how people lived. Okay, there's a lady called Buchi Emecheta, who wrote out of her own background, had a father who fought in the Second World War. So people wrote about those times. So think about the Second World War in the 40s, late 30s and 40s, right? But before that, we don't have very much that's written about how people lived. So when you think about that, that's in the past. But right now, I would say that there is yet another unique population, maybe this applies to me, whereby our parents migrated across to the diaspora, right? Our parents who were born and bred in various countries in Africa, for example, I'm giving you my example, ended up living way outside the continent. So there's some of us, their children, who maybe have an inkling of how life was used to be in various African countries. Maybe we had some childhood years, but now we're raising children. I'm raising children in the US, for example. My children don't have a very good sense of how things were for their grandparents growing up in Nigeria, for example. So their story is going to enlighten them, is going to help them know how things were. Their grandparents, my parents, their life stories now is a form of history for my children, right? So that's the third reason I think your biography would definitely matter to someone. So remember, the first thing I said is your biography is relatable, at least in one or two ways, because there's something you overcame that somebody can look at and be inspired by, okay? So it's relatable. That's the first thing. The second thing is there are people in your family who may never have the honor of meeting you, and yet they're related to you. And so your story is going to be important to them someday, okay? And the third thing is you, my friend, you are history, okay? Because your situation is different than the situation of people coming after you. And so because of that, your history will matter, okay, to people further down the line. So I hope these three things will help convince you that, in fact, your history is important. In fact, somebody will care about your history. Well, somebody will be interested, okay? These three things. I hope they convinced you. So today, make a vow that, yes, I am history. And yes, there are people who will not meet me. And yes, there are aspects of my life history that will uplift and inspire somebody, that somebody else can relate to, that will encourage them on their life journey, that will be a roadmap for somebody else. And so, therefore, I hope you will make a vow to start writing your story. And I hope you join me again when I come back to talk about more tips and suggestions to help you write your biography. Again, this is Dr. Uche of Dr. Uche Books, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.